So this week, I pitched to Brian that we should watch Fuller House. That's the news. On Netflix. It's basically there's a rebranding of Full House that everyone knows of from
The
when you were a
90s.
kid growing up in the '80s and early '90s. And if you enjoyed TGIF, and if you don't know what TGIF is, then you are not old enough to watch the show.
No.
So, but I mean, I pitched us to watch that. Um,
And we did.
we
Well,
did. We watched the first two episodes. We didn't watch the complete series because we both started watching it last night because we procrastinated.
it was a last minute addition to the show that we decided we wanted to do.
Yeah,
And we weren't
and
and to be fairly honest, we weren't sure if we were going to be able to do it this week because we wanted to give it a fair shake and watch more than one or two episodes just to see how we felt about it. And honestly, after watching a couple episodes, we're like, all right, let's talk about it.
yeah. And okay, so let's do the first episode.
So the first episode is terrible. I'm just gonna throw it out there. The first episode is absolutely awful. It was painful to watch at times. The show really tries it. So anybody who hasn't watched it yet, it basically reboots the series in a way that makes sense to the storyline, I guess, but
Yeah,
takes it off on a whole new direction. So the original cast members, all the children now are the main stars, and Bob Saget and John Stamos and those guys, they're all secondary characters now. They pop in and out occasionally, but I mean they're present on the show, but they've all moved to like Los Angeles and different places, and they moved on with their lives. And this is following the Tanner children,
yeah.
um, going forward.
Minus Michelle.
Minus Michelle, the twins. They make a awful meta joke that was just it was so. The first
You know,
episode is cringeworthy. The jokes are terrible, and the laugh track and the live audience, man, it's just like it's painful. I'm just like, oh,
yeah, and in the first episode, they were trying really, really hard to hit the nostalgia.
well, they're trying to remind you that this was a show based on a show that you grew up watching.
Yeah, and they very much hammered that over and over and over again.
To the point that it was
And,
almost unenjoyable at times watching
yeah,
this. It was like I said, it was
it,
painful.
it it gets to a point where they're reenacting stuff that they did from their past,
Oh,
but they did a split
oh,
screen,
that was
and then
so
they would
bad,
show the original clip from when we watched it as kids, and then they would
dude.
show the clip from right now, and they'd be trying to do it like exactly the same.
Yeah,
And
that Flintstones gag was just it was
oh
terrible. It was so bad. But I will say after the first episode, even as bad as the writing was, as bad as the in your face, hey, remember us, it was almost
remember
like when you're
this?
it was almost like when you run into somebody who you were friends with in high school that you no longer see, and they're like, "Hey, remember me? Remember all those times we used to hang out, and it was awesome. When we sit in my basement and drink beers that I stole from my dad. That was so awesome." And you're just like, "Dude, just leave me alone." I mean,
Yeah,
that is kind of the way this felt, but I will say, growing up watching the series, even so, by the end of the first episode, there was still this endearing factor about him that even though that it was so bad, they committed so much to the characters that you just were like, you almost couldn't be mad at them because you knew them and you loved them from your childhood. And
yeah.
so I don't know about you, but I was like, all right, I'll give the second episode a try.
Yeah,
And
and that was kind of my feeling too. Like I watched the first one, like, and I knew it was like, okay, they had to sell it on the first episode. They had
yeah,
to, overdo, all the shit to just try and get people, feeling like, they're watching, an adult version of the show that they grew up on. And so the second episode, they actually get into, what the actual story is going to be and what they're trying to establish with the new Netflix show. And God, I didn't want to like it.
yeah, I didn't either. I think we both put on our Facebook page like, oh my god, the things we do for this show, watching Fuller House.
Yes,
But I'm not
it
gonna
was.
lie. By the end, I was laughing a lot in the second episode. I found myself
Yeah,
chuckling a lot, and when it was over, I'm like, "Crap! I'm gonna finish this series."
yeah. It's Yeah, and I felt the exact same way. And I might wait to show it to have my wife watch the first 2 episodes so
Oh,
that we
my
can
wife won't watch it with me. She's like, "What are you watching? I can't believe you're watching that." But well, anyway, real quick.
It's like watching TG. It's like being a kid again and watching
Well,
TGIF.
anybody
And
who we didn't really talk about what the show is about. I mean, it's basically Full House. The oldest daughter, DJ Tanner. She unfortunately her husband has died a year ago and left her, widowed her with three children of various ages. I think the oldest boy is about 9 or 10.
yeah,
The middle kid's about 6, and then there's a baby. And so she's gonna have to be a single mom. Her whole family's left. Her, Michelle, the youngest sister, is building a fashion empire in New York, so she's not on the show. The
and
middle sister was it
Stephanie,
Lisa or was it Stephanie? Stephanie's
yeah,
a world famous DJ, and she's just in town. And so they all overhear her. They overhear the oldest DJ crying, basically talking about how she's not going to make it. So all the parents decide they're going to stay, but then they're like, "No, you're not going to stay." And Stephanie's like, "We'll stay." And then Gibbler, she's the best part. She's hilarious. She's the same.
yeah. I would have to say Kimmy Gibbler is probably one of the better parts in the show.
Kimmy is exactly the Kimmy that you know and remember from the show, and she's like I said. There's an earnest quality to all these characters. Even when they're obnoxious, you still just really like them.
Yeah,
And so they all agree to move in, and Bob Saget, I remember his name, Dad Tanner, gives them the house so that they don't have to move, and so the story becomes about
Kimmy has a daughter too.
yeah, Kimmy has a daughter whose dad is a Spanish Latino dude. He was hilarious. Who cheated on Kimmy a lot and then wants her back.
Yeah,
There was a couple Kama Sutra jokes that were kind of awkward because you knew these kids as kids, and you're like,
yeah,
eh. But no, it's a really honestly DJ's 3 boys. Well, I guess the youngest one wasn't. He's a baby, but her 2 sons. The middle one's hilarious. He's a clean freak, but there were so many jokes that just made me laugh, and even though the writing in this isn't great, the characters are so endearing. You just like you really.
It's like
them.
watching your childhood, basically.
It is, and you really care about them, and you want to see more. So, I mean, there's not much to say about it. The show, is it a good show? Not really. It's a 90s sitcom. It really is. With like I said, the laugh track, the live audience, the really bad jokes, the clear setup, but the characters are fun and they commit fully. And you start to kind of by the end of the second episode, I really kind of cared about what was going to happen with these people.
And they're in the same house, so you have that familiarity with it, and they're kind of touching on stuff that happened in the past, like where in the second episode, the two boys that are the oldest have to move into a room together, which kind of mirrors the episode where
DJ
and Stephanie had to move into their room together, and Stephanie tells the oldest son what DJ did. And so he kind of follows suit. But it's like you said, I wanted to not like it so much.
I did too. I did not want to watch this. When you were like, we should watch this, I was...
And the second episode was over, and I paused it and turned it off. Like, all right, so I need to think about this.
Yeah, and then I got the next day, and I'm like, I want to watch more. I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna binge watch the rest of the season. I can't believe I'm gonna say it, but I'm looking forward to finishing Fuller House. I can't even put my finger on why I am excited to watch it more. But like I said, it's a very heartfelt. You care. It makes you care, and I guess maybe as a parent now, I understand some of the jokes and I understand some of the things that these characters are going through, and it makes sense to me, and it's funny, but not everything works. In fact, most of the jokes don't work, but there's, like I said, I don't know how many times I can say it, there's something very endearing about these characters that just make you want to watch them and root for them and see how it ends. So, I don't know. I will be watching the rest of Fuller House.
So
saying that.
So I guess we're both going to say that it's craptastic.
It is full on 100% craptastic. It is not a good show, but it should definitely be watched by everybody. So watch it. Fuller House available now. Season 1 on Netflix.
You can even skip the first episode if you really wanted to.
Yeah, I'd probably watch it. Just know that it's painful. It's painful. It's painful. When they all lip sync the Uncle Joey Forever song, I'm just like, oh Jesus.
God, it's like
so bad.
terrible when it was first written.
It was
So,
terrible in the 90s, and now it's the same exact song, and you can tell they're all lip syncing it.